I'm surprised I haven't done this video yet, but better late than never. I started my art business 6 years ago when I was just 21 years old. In this video, I'm going to share how I did it and give you some tips and advice for other artists or creators here on YouTube to get started doing the same thing. Start making that money. If you like art and entrepreneurship type videos, make sure to like the video, jingle all my bells and buttons for new videos every Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. What's up everyone? Welcome back to the Honey and Absinthe channel. My name is Janet. I am the ex-Disney artist who quit my job in order to go full-time into my art business. I'm going to be sharing each phase of my business and how I got it started, and then I'll give you some tips along the way. Let's start from the beginning. Back in 2014, I was in my last year of college. In preparation for graduation and entering the working job force, I got myself a table at CTN. For those of you who don't know, CTN is an industry show or a trade show for people in animation specifically. At the time, I wasn't trying to start a business. I wanted a table there so I could show my portfolio, show my animatics, show my design work. I was trying to get hired. I did not care about starting a business. But a common thing people do when they have a booth or a table there is to sell some of their artwork, their books, pins, whatever it is, to recoup the cost a little, as well as get their name out there and market themselves. So to help make back a little bit of that money, because the table was not cheap, I think it was around $500, I made prints, business cards, zines, and I worked with, at the time, an unknown local print shop in order to get my banners printed, and made these large canvas prints to wow and dazzle everyone with my art skills. I also shared the cost of the table with my partner, Vincent, the other half of Honey and Absinthe, since he was also looking for work in animation. We were actually still selling our work separately at the time. We didn't combine until much later. He was selling his work under his name, and I was selling my work under my name. And to be completely transparent, completely honest, it was our very first convention. In my opinion, it was the worst trade show to have shown at for my very first convention, and to be completely honest and transparent, it was a complete failure in terms of making money. And I've given these types of talks before at conventions about how to do what I do, and I normally start off with that your first convention, your first experience selling is most likely going to fail, but not really, because if you learn from your failures, was it really a failure? When it's your first time making prints, when it's your first time making merch, when it's your first time making YouTube videos, the first time you're a total beginner, you're not going to be super amazing at it, and it's completely okay to fail. In fact, I encourage you to fail. The only way you will learn how to get started making money is to actually start, actually try, and fail first. Once you get your first few failures down, you will be so strong and you will be able to make money. And a specific tip for people who want to show at trade shows, events next year in 2021, let's say, if it is your first convention, be kind to yourself. It's pretty common to get super overwhelmed because you're making everything from scratch. You're gonna look over to someone with years of experience across from you who has apparel and all this crazy merchandise that you couldn't have possibly made in a matter of a few months. For example, it took me a really long time to develop the catalog of items that I have in my online store, for example. I really worked at figuring out what prints sell, what prints don't sell, how to make apparel, all these things, and it takes time and experience. Don't be discouraged. Know that your very first convention is going to be the hardest because you're making everything from scratch. You're making your business cards from scratch if you don't have a business card. You're making your prints from scratch. A lot of people don't consider, where do you get your prints printed? How do you present them? How do you package them so that they don't get damaged? How are you going to sign them? All the tiny little details are things that you're going to figure out along the way. And it's not something that most people think about right at the beginning anyways. And then I graduated. It was 2015, and I was currently looking for work. I was trying to get hired in animation, and in the meantime, as I was doing tests, I was freelancing, and I was doing a lot of other things. Part of figuring out how to increase my income and to add more income streams to what I was currently making as I was looking for full-time work, I decided to give selling my artwork another chance. Vincent and I signed up to a bunch of different craft fairs, anime conventions, trade shows, and we showed our art at a bunch of them. And and we learned so much. Every single convention, every single craft fair, every single opportunity that we had to sell, we were getting better and learning from our mistakes. So very early on, we weren't making much of a profit, probably a few $100s here and there on a weekend, but we started making money very quickly, from a few $100s to thousands. Along the way, we figured out how to offer services in the form of commissions. We went through a bunch of different displays. We figured out what kind of display was worth our money, what kind of display was just showy for the sake of being showy, what kind of display actually showcased our work and made money for us. And we made so many prints. I'm talking probably about 30 plus prints. And it honestly took that many tries to get the print game down. What people don't understand about selling products online and in person for that matter is that your first iteration of your product is probably not going to sell because you have no idea what people want to buy, you have no idea what sells, and there's no reason why you should. You don't have any experience selling at that point. You really have to iterate on your product before people will buy. And for me, it took a lot of tries. And here's a tip for if you want to start selling your artwork at trade shows, crafts fairs, conventions, whatever, is to apply early. Most of the conventions and fairs that we went to, we were actually waitlisted. We were lucky enough to be taken off of the waitlist in order to sell our work at those shows, but it was purely by chance. What you are doing when you are applying to these shows is you're applying for the next year, which means you kind of need some money in order to invest for the next year's shows, which is why I am mentioning this now. Since in 2020, a lot of shows, a lot of trade shows, craft fairs, events in general have been canceled, you can actually prepare for next year. If you apply now, you give yourself the best chances to get into these shows and start selling right away once 2021 hits. And that brings us to 2016, our third year selling our art. This was the year where we really hit our stride. We really figured out how to sell our artwork at these trade shows, events. We were making about $3,000 a weekend. $2,500 of that was profit. And we were going to as many as 8 or more conventions a year. It was a pretty good side hustle. But one of the downsides was I had started working. I was working at DreamWorks at the time, and it became really hard to juggle going to conventions, making merch, making product, making content, having a full-time job that also exhausted my creativity. One of the biggest things that helped us start making a lot more money is, again, I iterated on our products. By then, I had made probably over 60 different prints. A lot of them were discontinued, a lot of them people didn't want to buy, and what I was doing was I would find a winner and then I would replicate that process. I'd figure out what it was about my product that people wanted to buy. I would do it again another 30 times and see of those products which one people wanted to buy of those, and then I would do it again. Each time I was getting better and better at figuring out what people wanted to buy and what about my art that people really liked, or simple things like figuring out what colors people respond to and what triggers people to buy psychologically. The main tip for people who want to sell their art or any product, actually any kind of digital or physical, is to make so many different kinds, to make iterations, and to really figure out what do people want from you. I recommend, especially for artists, current artists in particular, your goal should be to make a minimum of 30 prints and see which one of those 30 prints sells. Which one of those 30 prints resonate with people on social media? You need to track things like that to really fine-tune what makes your business successful. Before I move on to the next tips, make sure to comment down below if you've started selling your artwork or anything online. Why and why not? So by 2017, we were on a roll. We knew exactly how to make money, and we can consistently go to conventions on the weekends to make $3,000 or more. But we hit a roadblock because it became so hard to juggle our full-time jobs with our side hustle. We couldn't really scale the business like that. If we were required to be at conventions, to be at events in order to make money, it meant that if we weren't at those events, if we weren't at conventions, we weren't making money. In a way, we were reliant on trade shows, events for part of our side hustle income. So it wasn't until 2017, about 3 to 4 years after we started this business, to actually go online. And people had asked us before, did we have an online store? And most of the time we would say we were working on it. But 2017 was the year we officially formed Honey and Absinthe. Vincent and I combined forces. It didn't make sense to sell our artwork separately anymore since our styles were so similar, and we were going to conventions and trade shows exclusively together anyways. And we decided to hit social media hard. We created our online store, we created our Instagram, and we really promoted ourselves. We posted every single day if we could. I can't believe we waited until year 3 or 4 to finally treat our business, which is what it was, like a real business. It was also the first time we successfully made apparel that sold, these sweaters. So my tip for this part of the story is I wish I could have done this from the beginning. This is the step anyone can do right now, especially since so many events have been postponed or canceled until 2021. There is no excuse to start making your art, your product, whatever it is that you want to sell, and make it now. And start promoting it now on social media. Start hustling it on YouTube, for example. Imagine, what if I had done all the work I did in 2017 back in 2014? If I had set up the social media properly, if I had set up the online store properly, and started hitting social media really hard, Honey and Absinthe would have grown so much faster and would be at a different place by now. Start now, really. And finally, between 2017 and 2020, we were basically juggling our side hustle and our full-time jobs. I really hustled and figured out all that was to learn about Instagram, how to grow on Instagram, and how to promote our work. But it became increasingly harder and harder to balance the two. I had reached a certain point in my career where I needed to make a really important decision. I had been a storyboard revisionist for about 3 years or so, and I had come to the point in my career where I was starting to get promoted. I was starting to get opportunities to be a storyboard artist. And for those of you who don't know, storyboard artists typically are very overworked in the industry. The reality was I had to choose between my side hustle and moving forward in my career. If I were to take my promotions and to climb the corporate ladder that is animation, I would have had 0 time to commit to my side hustle, as well as 0 energy. And honestly, it was a pretty difficult decision for me because I had worked really hard to get to where I was at my career and at the company that I was at, Disney at the time. All through college, my career was my passion. I wanted to be a storyboard revisionist. I wanted to be a storyboard artist. I wanted to be a director, all these things. But in the past 6 years, things changed drastically. I found a whole new passion. I loved selling my art. I loved running my own business. I loved calling the shots. I loved all these aspects of being an entrepreneur and figuring out the business side of things. I don't know if you guys can relate to this, but I would find myself thinking about my passion project, my side hustles, constantly at work, not really caring about my work like I thought I would. The passion that I had in my career and then the passion that I had in my side hustle kind of switched places. But what sealed the deal for me is when I first got offered my promotion, I really was not looking forward to it. I felt so much sadness that I would have less time for my passion, my actual passion, and I would have to have more responsibility and more of my time and energy to devote to this thing that I really wasn't too excited about. So I made the decision in 2020 to quit my job and to pursue Honey and Absinthe full-time. And here I am, living the dream. My final tip is if you laid the groundwork to build your online business while you're working full-time, when the time comes, you should leave. If you crunch the numbers and you know that you will be able to be financially capable of going full-time into your business, it's really scary, but to tell you the truth, even if I'm making so much less money than I was working in animation, or I have to work 10 times harder working for myself than working for someone else, I wouldn't have traded that for anything. I'd rather be happy making the bare minimum than really unhappy making a lot of money, wasting my life away, and knowing that I could be doing what I actually wanted to be doing. And that's how I started my business at 21. If you would like to support this channel, check out honeyandabsinthe.com. We have merch. I'm currently wearing the Hustle shirt. If you buy this shirt, you can show off how hard you hustle or pretend to. I also have a freebie down below if you would like a more step-by-step process on how to start your online business. Check out these other videos if you would like to learn more about how to use YouTube in order to grow your online business. If you like the video, like the video. Make sure to jingle all my bells and buttons to be notified when new art and entrepreneurship videos come out. And don't forget to dare to dream.